Hey friends, good morning. I am so excited and so glad that all of you could be here. I am home on a brief 3-week break from our big nationwide book tour. As you might know, I just recently was able to publish the new book, Rehumanize, A Vision to Secure Human Rights for All. So my talk today is going to be about how we secure this future of human rights for all human beings, like why it matters. So thank you all for coming. I am so grateful that you are here. If you were able to make it to any of my book tour stops so far, thanks for coming out. If you're hoping to get out to some of my future stops, please make the effort. I'd love to see you out on the road. So more or less how we're going to start this is just by asking the question, who deserves human rights? This is a question that I really try to engage a lot of folks with when I'm out on the road. Folks from all walks of life, I think, are interested in engaging this question. So I open the conversation, who deserves human rights? So to answer this question, I think we need to break it down a little further. Basically by asking, what is a human? So how do we answer this question? I know usually at an event, I'll ask for people to raise their hands and give their opinions. So if you want to put your opinions in the chat, feel free to let us know. So yeah, what's a human? What is a human? I have a gift from one of my favorite bands. We ask this question, are we human or are we dancer? No. A human is an organism or a being, if you will, of the species Homo sapiens. That's just like a super basic, bare bones answer. And all Homo sapiens begin their lives like all mammals do. Every human's individual and unique life is begun at the moment when human sperm and human ovum fuse at fertilization, thereby creating a new, distinct, living, and whole organism, or zygote, who will, given ample nutrition, shelter, and care, and of course, barring accidents, illness, or harm, will grow to be a fetus, neonate, toddler, adolescent, adult, and elder. We're humans from the womb to the tomb, no matter how guilty or useless or inconvenient. All these factors lie on a spectrum of sorts. Whether we're talking about guilt and innocence, the most innocent being like a newborn baby or a fetus, the child who has yet to do anything, all the way to people like King Leopold II, who was responsible for between 5 and 10 million deaths. Most of us lie somewhere in the middle. Or if we're talking about usefulness or uselessness, babies could just float around in the womb, not really doing a whole lot. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have folks like Leonardo da Vinci, who are prolific inventors, artists, and creators. Most of us lie somewhere in the middle. Again, these factors lie on a spectrum. Some of us will be more innocent than others. Some of us will be more useful than others. Some of us will be more convenient than others. But any line that we could draw to declare that, this person on this degree of the spectrum is worthy of life, but these at the next degree are not, would be totally arbitrary. So to explain a little further, no extrinsic circumstance can touch our intrinsic human nature and the dignity that comes with it. That's because our humanity is part of our essence, not a consequence of ability or age or innocence or usefulness. It's nothing that could be changed or removed from us. It's an immutable part of who and what we are. And with that essential humanity comes this beautiful nature as members of a rational species. Basically, each one of us is inimitable, unique, irreplaceable, unrepeatable, incommunicable. To quote John Henry Newman, nothing is more difficult than to realize that everyone has a depth within them unfathomable, an infinite abyss of existence. I love that imagery. We have this selfhood, this je ne sais quoi to who we are that makes it impossible to trade out any one of us with another. I often ask this question when I'm doing talks. Do any of you have a loved one, someone that you care about, maybe a best friend or a sibling or a spouse or a partner that you care about so deeply? And how would you feel if we abducted them, took them away, and you never got to see them again? But we replaced them with a similar make and model, like same height, same eye color, same hair color. I don't know if they have the same like electric blue as me, but same hair color. Maybe the same like Myers-Briggs personality type or Enneagram or temperament or whatever, whatever personality thing you might subscribe to. What if they had all of these similar traits? If they were a similar make and model, how would you feel about that? 99 times out of 100, I will get the answer, well, I wouldn't like that. And I ask, well, why? Why wouldn't you like that? And they say, well, because that wouldn't be them. And that's the core of what I'm getting at here. There's this untouchable themness, you-ness to who you are, to who we are, that makes it so you can't just swap out any one of us with another. That's a beautiful thing about being human, is that there's this infinite abyss of who we are, this uniqueness that makes it impossible to trade any one of us out with another. Okay, so we've covered what a human is. So we have to go back to this question, who deserves human rights? And again, I think we need to break down the other part of it. So what are rights? There are negative rights, also known as liberties. Some people call these like natural rights. These respect limits on others' actions and interference. For example, the freedom from unreasonable search and seizure. Then there are positive rights, also known as entitlements. These provide the holder with a claim against another party, usually the government, to something, often goods or services. For example, the right to safe and equitable housing. These rights exist in tandem with the duties that flow with them. I'd say flow from, but there are arguments about whether the duties pre-exist rights or the other way around. I don't really want to get into that nitty-gritty today. So basically, there are negative duties, aka thou shalt nots, where respecting another person's negative rights means that we have the duty to not interfere. For example, the right of individuals to have personal property creates a duty to not steal. Then there are positive duties, aka obligations, where respecting another person's positive rights means that we have the duty to meet a human need. For example, the right of individuals to water creates a duty on government, typically, to provide or ensure equitable access to clean water where it's possible to do so. What becomes clear when you think deeply about the concept of rights and how it intertwines with duties is that the first and foundational human right is to live free from aggressive violence. Because you can't use your other rights to hold property, have bodily autonomy, make choices, reside in housing, access healthcare, drink water, eat food, etc., if you've been killed. Basically, you got to be able to continue living as you were without harm in order to exercise your other rights. Because the first and foundational human right is to live free from aggressive violence, we must therefore oppose and seek to end all forms of aggressive violence: embryo destruction, abortion, war making, military torture, police brutality, torture in the justice system, the death penalty, euthanasia, assisted suicide, and all other forms of abuse, homicide, and aggressive violence against human beings. So let's revisit that big main question again, because I think at this point we can put together an answer now. Who deserves human rights? Human beings. No exceptions. Indeed, they aren't white rights or wealthy rights or born rights or straight rights. They're just human rights. So that means all humans, regardless of circumstances like age, ability, class, gender, location, nationality, race, religion, sexual orientation, size, etc., deserve human rights. And the first of those is the right to live free from violence. However, we see double standards on all sides because they do not consistently support human rights for all human beings. For example, the title of pro-life has perhaps become a sort of misnomer when the pro-life cause has aligned itself with warmongering politicians in the Republican Party who support the death penalty unwaveringly. Considering that the child in the womb has the potential to become also a soldier on the battlefield, or a child caught behind enemy lines, or a prisoner on death row, we have the responsibility to value their life at all stages. Likewise, however, anti-death penalty Democrats have been dealing with a similar multiplicity with human life for many years, because the respect for human life in the case of the death row inmate is often aligned with support for the violence of abortion, euthanasia, and even during the Obama administration, most liberals were stunningly silent in the face of war and torture perpetuated by their own party. This all stems from loving the vague, nebulous idea of human rights more than we love and respect the humans behind those rights. I don't know, maybe you guys knew someone like this growing up. I actually was a little like this growing up, where for years I loved the idea of being in love so much. Love the idea of love, that I was going through toxic relationship after toxic relationship, just kind of treating people as a means to an end to achieve this idea of feeling loved, of feeling affirmed. And, I think it's a similar idea. Like, do we love the idea of love, or do we actually love that person that we're with? So do we love the idea of human rights? Do we love the idea of the right to life? Or do we actually love the humans who have those rights? So it's difficult because we face a culture that perhaps condones killing more often than it seeks to prevent it. And in a time when many people are more attached to their political party than their religious or ethical principles, it sometimes feels like we're swimming upstream. We're stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to politics. I constantly get asked how I approach the voting booth, and my answer is always with angst and trepidation, because neither major political party meets my super duper practically on the floor low bar. If they support aggressive violence being legal, my conscience won't let me vote for them. My low bar for political support is just don't support violence against human beings. It's so low. Like, if a candidate supports any form of violence, I cannot in good conscience vote for them. But it's such a low bar that I just feel like it's the floor. Like, if people aren't meeting that low bar, it's because they're digging a hole for themselves. Because it's such a low bar, it's drawn on the ground. And yet they whiff every time. It should be common sense to demand that politicians oppose the intentional harming of any members of our human family. And yet, we continue getting stuck with an ethical dilemma wherein we are consistently asked to choose the lesser of two evils. What if being asked to support the lesser of two evils over and over and over again has resulted in this particular political moment where the evil just keeps getting more and more entrenched? So, if politics can't save us, if the answer can't be found in our current polarized two-party system, what do we do? Ultimately, the things that we do daily, weekly, and monthly in our own communities are more important than a singular vote. So, enact justice, live peace, always, right where you are. We must not see voting every 4 years as our sole political action towards supporting human rights. While our culture may frame voting as the beginning and end of political action, in reality, voting is merely one beginning towards action. The work begins again each day. It doesn't end here because the election's over. How we choose to live daily for and in solidarity with the marginalized and oppressed in our communities will always have more of an impact than your one vote for president or Senate or any other major political office. Statistically speaking, your vote will have an infinitesimally small impact on the outcome of any given race. But 100% of the time, it will impact your own conscience. Your vote indicates which groups of humans you are willing to sacrifice for the greater good. Rather than trying to justify making that compromise to throw certain humans under the bus, I challenge you to make a commitment to yourself and to the community that you live in, to live justice daily. Don't depend on politicians to do it for you. I'm fully aware that it's quite countercultural to be so darn consistent in support of nonviolence when we consider that in the United States, abortion, capital punishment, assisted suicide, unjust wars, torture, embryonic stem cell research, and euthanasia have all been deemed legal in at least one case, if not widely. The partisan divide is an ingrained part of the systemic oppression and acceptance of violence that we have in this country. Nonetheless, I think we have the responsibility to change the culture, to shift paradigms, and to seek legal protections for every human being. So you've got to ignite change. You've got to unsettle the status quo of dehumanization. And that's what we're about here today. So as you listen and as you learn to all of the different presentations that are going to be shared today on so many vital topics, I hope that the words of William Wilberforce will be ringing in your ears. You can look away, but you can never again say that you did not know. Or, to echo Maya Angelou, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. The work begins again each day. So as we're here and as we learn, we can prepare ourselves for the work that's ahead. We can prepare ourselves to do better in our daily lives. I hope that in the conversations that you have with other attendees, that you'll learn things and you'll take things back to your community to engage in this action, engage in this justice, engage in this peacemaking daily. So, onward. Thank you so much for attending. I appreciate all the commentary in the Q&As. I definitely want to be engaging some of this throughout the day. And if you have DMs, feel free to DM me. There's a little like mail icon on the upper right. You can send DMs to other people who are in the conference. So feel free to ask me questions. You can also send me a question on Twitter or Instagram at Rehumanize Aimee. You can find more info about me, speaking engagements, and my book at consistentlyaimee.com, or shoot me an email. I usually would love to take questions, but I'm afraid just because of how exhausted I am from the book tour, I don't have it in me this morning. So yeah, feel free to DM me questions and I would be happy to answer them in written format this morning. In the meantime, we have about 5 minutes to spare, I think, till the next session starts. So thank you again so much for attending. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for engaging in these important conversations. I think even if we don't all agree on everything, being able to challenge each other and meet each other in these spaces, even, in the art of being uncomfortable, I think is an important skill that we need to learn. So again, thank you so much for attending. I'll see you in the chats.